and welcome. And what are we talking about this week? One of the biggest stories in Barbados this week has been the fortunes of CLICO and its policyholders. And so I had a chat with June Fowler, head of the Barbados Investors and Policyholders Alliance. And we looked at why it is important that they not give up hope, the need for all effective policyholders to join the alliance, and how she stays strong in the midst of all of these challenges.
I'm going to start off then by asking you to tell me about the activities in which you've been engaged since you first came on the scene. I'm asking you this because persons may feel that your fervor, your passion, your goals may have been put one side, as we say, simply because of the passage of time.
What I will say, Carol, is that we passion is still very much there. We're still very much driven by our mandate, and that is to recover the monies that are due to the policyholders, not only in CLICO but British American. What we have been doing over the past, I would say maybe a year and a half, behind the scenes, was having meetings with the judicial manager, with our attorney, going in and out of court. And one of the things people might not have seen is a sort of a public presence in the media that was done purposely because a lot of what we were doing was confidential. And we were told, based on the information that was being shared with us, that we had to keep it confidential. And we did, because we did not want to have a situation where we reveal certain things to the media or to the public at large, and then we got cut off from the discussions. And so that was critical for us to keep that information. And what we sought to do was to kind of have closed meetings with our membership only. And, if people wanted to join and get further information, then they should become a part of BIPA. So we sought to inform members by email, and those who didn't have email, we would put correspondence in email for them. And so those are some of the things that have been happening. But there are a lot, the leadership team, has been meeting and meeting. So even though the general body might not have had physical meetings with the frequency that we've had in the past, the leadership team has been kept busy over this past year and a half.
Has the membership increased or decreased over time?
It has decreased over time. We continue to have the faithful few. I think now we are down to the faithful ones coming out to meetings are about 80 or so. Those who still remain members and may not come out to a meeting but pay their fees and so on, we are about 225, I think.
Do you think that this current stir-up and almost renewed scrutiny on the fortunes of CLICO will impact on your membership in a positive way?
It has already started. We've had, right now, I think 4 persons joined so far, and persons are calling, asking questions. We get in information from persons overseas about death claims for relatives and what to do. Persons have been calling, asking, should I still be paying my premiums? Should I stop? Should I cancel my policies? So there has been a resurgence in activity, and I think it has to do with a lot of what has been happening recently.
The last time we chatted, which would have been about 2 years ago, I remember clearly also reading an interview with an elderly gentleman, and the phrase I remember him using was that he was in the departure lounge, and that was why he was so eager for a resolution. Unfortunately, he has still passed away.
Yeah.
I'm sure he may not be the only one. What relationship do you have with the persons remaining, left behind, and their estates and that kind of thing?
Yeah, for that gentleman, actually, his spouse remains a member, so she comes to meetings and she's kept up to date. There are, I think, 2 others who have lost spouses, and they too also participate in the meetings. So the estate, eventually when monies are paid out, the estate will receive the funds. But the spouses would usually participate in the meetings, and I think there's one person who might have I think it's a niece who represents that estate. So relatives continue to be part of the meetings if a loved one has passed away.
Is it too late for persons to join? Well, you said that just in the last couple of days or so, 4 people have joined. Is it too late for persons who, would just say, you know what, I think I need to join this cause as well, because I am also affected?
It is not, and I think this is really critical for persons to join, because we go back to court on the 24th of February when our application to become joint to the judicial management process will be heard. We are hoping to be successful. We see no reason why we should not be successful, and we are hoping that persons who are policyholders will recognize the importance of this aspect happening, because once the judicial manager goes to court and he's given the approval to start the liquidation process, thousands of people are going to be flocking to the judicial manager for information. And I believe that BIPA can be a good conduit for them to filter the information as opposed to them having to deal with all these individual persons. We're hoping that the company is not liquidated, because, Carol, if that happens, you're talking about 22 cents in the dollar for policyholders, and for those persons who have hundreds of thousands of dollars, some even millions. This, I can't even begin to imagine how this will impact them. We are hopeful that this new company that the Ministry of Finance has apparently established on January, I think it is 26th, that is a real, and I have to say this, a real reality, because the whole plan that the judicial manager had, that cabinet had approved, was to have the assets transferred to a new entity, restart business, start selling business again, and have the company turn around over a period of time so that policyholders do not lose anything. And the whole plan of the government is to make the policyholders whole as it relates to their principal. The traditional policyholders were supposed to be made fully whole. The EFPA policyholders were to recover their principal only. Our suggestion would be that the interest that is out there, that they're saying write that off, we're saying no, we should not lose our interest. The interest should perhaps be converted to shares so that policyholders also have an ownership in this new entity. So there are a lot of things that we hope would happen that would turn out to be positive. We refuse to accept any 22 cents. I mean, maybe I think it was 2010, 2012, when the judicial manager had presented some options. And at the point in time then, I think when liquidation was also discussed, we were to receive, it was either between 60 to 80 cents in the dollar. You're talking now 2 years later and it's 22 cents. What happened in a 2-year period? Which tells us that the assets valued at that time were perhaps inflated, and now that a real actuarial overview has taken place, that we see the real value, and of course the assets, they depreciate over a period of time. So it really is a disheartening situation that 6 years down the line, we've not seen one red cent. Pensioners have been receiving their pensions on a monthly basis, and of course you heard recently that has stopped in January because of the lack of cash flow.
Have you been in contact with any of these affected pensioners? And is it as dire as it sounds?
There are, there's some in our association, and they have been able to juggle their finances to help. But there are some who I believe were calling in directly to CLICO, and we understand that the stories have been heartbreaking. Fortunately, we've not had any of those so far, and I really don't know, Carol, if I can take any more, because even outside of that, the stories that I continue to get still are disturbing, and sometimes you really can't sleep because you are wondering how are these people going to survive if they do not have the funds to get the medical treatment that they need. There's a possibility that some people can die. There's one guy who had to go overseas, and that he needed some serious medical attention, and he had to go overseas and depend, cap in hand, to another relative, and this is someone who have more than $500,000 in CLICO. So it really, really bothers me when it seems as though this thing is being taken lightly and there's no urgency to get a successful resolution to this debacle.
There is an underlying thread to some aspects of public opinion on this entire CLICO saga, and it seems to point to wanting to get some person, wanting to make some person pay. But that's not the goal of your alliance, is it?
The reason why we were formed was that, and that was our tagline, to get our monies back. And that still is it. I believe there are people out there looking for revenge and we know that how the law courts and how the system works in the region. There's some people who, in some countries, presidents go to jail heads of corporations go to jail for these kind of things. We believe that if there's a criminal case to be answered and the DPP, in his position, sees that there's a criminal case to be answered, then I believe that it should be pursued. We have the situation that we saw in the newspapers with the judicial manager seeking to recover the $4.5 million that will go into the kitty for the policyholders. Those kind of things we want to see happening. We do not know what is in the final forensic audit report, what this will disclose, if anything, but from what I am seeing right now, I would like to think that if there was something else in addition to what we've already seen, then that too should have been disclosed. And the fact that they're right now in the process of going before the courts to have the report unsealed and released to the public tells me that there may not be much more in that final report in terms of bringing charges against anyone.
Why is it important that the final forensic audit report be made public?
Every other report has been made public, even the first report. And one of the things that the judicial manager had promised us, and this is why we had agreed to the sealing at the point in time, was that they had to do further investigations that were sensitive, and they did not want the information out there in the public until they had covered all the bases, and we agreed to that. The fact that they're looking to have it now released into the public tells us that they have done all the investigations. There's no more investigations to be done. So it can now become a public document like the first report did, like the report of December 12th. There's a report of December 12th that is to be released into the public, so members of the public can go and see that report, and that is the report that outlines the liquidation process. So I find it really difficult to understand why the FFC would be seeking to block this report, stating that it could perhaps, and I don't have the exact words in front of me here, but to the effect that if this report is released, then it may be a difficulty down the line to get the company sold, because if I am a potential investor seeking to purchase this entity, I would want to see that report. I would want all of the documentation revealed, and so that everything is transparent and above board, so that I know what I'm purchasing, what I'm getting into, what I'm dealing with. So I find it really mind-boggling that we are at this stage now where it is to be released, and there's a challenge.
Do you think that the alliance, your alliance, is taken seriously given the regard that it is due, given the fact that you represent so many policyholders? And I'm talking in terms of ongoing dialogue, consultation, sharing of information.
Some people may not, but I believe, Carol, based on the results that we have received and the type of consultations that we have been having, BIPA is taken seriously. We've had consultations with prospective purchasers of the business. We've sat down around the table with them to discuss their proposals, to make recommendations, to look at how best a proposal can be drafted and be done to help to take over this business. So we've met with people that we believe, if BIPA was not taken seriously, they would not have even given us a phone call. I think people say that because the government has not yet met with us. None of the representatives in government have not yet met with us. And we are not bothered by that, because it does not stop us from doing what we need to do. And our role really is to advocate for the policyholders. So whenever there's need to come to the media to share information, or to get information out to the membership, or to sit with the judicial manager and get information and then disseminate that information to the policyholders, we will continue to do that. We would like to believe that this new board of directors that is set up with this new investment company that the government is setting up, that BIPA gets a seat on that board. The government, my understanding is that the government has agreed that BIPA would have a seat on the board, a representative, and the policyholders must be represented. You cannot set up an organization to make policyholders whole and then don't have a voice of the policyholders on that board. I don't think so.
There are hundreds of policyholders, and you're talking about a core of 80 belonging to the alliance.
Yeah.
That's kind of an unwieldy decimal there, or fraction. That's kind of an unwieldy fraction. But ultimately, whether it is resolved to your satisfaction or not, it will impact on all of the policyholders, correct?
Exactly, and this is what we want people to understand. Do you know, Carol, that policyholders who are not members of BIPA believe that we represent them, I walk all over this island, and wherever I go, people recognize me. They say, Ms. Fowler, I hope you're doing well for us. Thank you. You continue to do a good work. Continue to represent us. And I smile because I'm saying, but And then sometimes I say, are you a member of BIPA? And they say, no, I'm just a policyholder. And I laugh because people really believe that we represent them. But based on court documents, it has been made clear to us that we cannot say we represent 30,000 or 20,000 policyholders because they're not listed on our membership. And this is what we were trying to get over to the public for a long time. So when the judicial manager goes through his process of presenting his direction, I can't remember the legal term, to the court, and that he's given the approval to start the liquidation process, and then persons are invited to come out and meet and have discussions as to look at the pros and cons, then perhaps we will see people coming to join BIPA. People will then get to understand that you need legal representation, that you will need someone to stand before a judge and speak on your behalf. So I believe that as it reaches this stage, that more and more people will get to understand that you need to be a part of BIPA. Some people say, well, I'm not going to pay $200 a year to get my money back. I'm saying, well, you don't pay BIPA $200 a year, but you go and hire an attorney independently and perhaps pay $10,000 or $20,000. So that is the kind of thing we're dealing with.
Do you ever, June, entertain the thought that it will all come to naught? Pardon the pun.
No. It is too grave an injustice, Carol. It is too many persons have been impacted. This is not something that can be swept under the carpet or can be dismissed or can be shelved and say, well, we can deal with this. It may continue to drag on, but it cannot come to naught.
And do you say that because you're hopeful, or you say that because you have faith, or you say that from, how should I put it, analytical, like an actuarial point of view?
I would say all of the above with the... From the actuarial point of view, I mean, Carol, if you seriously look at the numbers, as the judicial manager said to us recently, unless there's a white knight who comes along and say, we can take this on. The problem is that if this had not been allowed to get to this stage, I mean, earlier it was better packaged. An investor can come and take over and start the business again. We've had several downgrades since then. A government guarantee is needed to help support any investor, I believe, that will come along, because the government has said there's a legitimate expectation that the government will see that policyholders get their principal back and traditional policyholders made whole. So that is a given. We know that. Whether it is this administration, another administration, whoever, it cannot come to naught. And BIPA, if BIPA has only the leadership team, or June Fowler saying, this will not come to naught, we're going to continue to fight this, then that's what we will do.
How do you keep hope alive among your other members?
For me, one of the things is to keep encouraging each other. I believe what drives a lot of our members is that they have worked. Some have worked for 30, 40 years and on a monthly basis putting aside $200, $500 towards their pension. And I believe that they want to see that they get justice. So they're motivated by the fact that we cannot give up. We cannot give up. We will not give up because we've worked too hard for our money. We did not go and spend it loosely. I paid towards a pension plan. I paid towards an endowment policy. I took out life policies for my children. And I did this because this is what we are supposed to do. We are supposed to take care of our families. We're supposed to take care of our future. And this is what we do. So I believe people are motivated by that. And for me, I am motivated by our leadership team that continues to be motivated. The consultants continue to help us and direct us. That we have some excellent consultants helping us. Our attorney at law, he is something else. We love him. Then I have my intercessors throughout the various churches across the island who continue to pray for us and pray with us and keep us going. And when the times come that we may be feeling a bit discouraged, the prayers continue to keep us. And we sense that and we feel that and we know that. And that has been a good thing for us.
How do you remain apolitical? Because clearly this scenario has deep undertones of politics.
Oh, it does.
How do you keep the association nonpartisan?
We do it because one of the things we've recognized is that, and this is what I'm saying, we will talk to any politician. I mean, and whether it's B, D, or whoever. Unfortunately, again, nobody from the administration has decided to sit with us and chat with us. But one of the things we've recognized with politicians, at the end of the day, they're all friends. At the end of the day, they all relate to each other outside of the acting of Parliament and the show that is put on for public, recognizing that they all, I call it incestuous. They all have these incestuous relationships. So we are very careful not to want to side with one person or side with the next, because we know it would be detrimental to BIPA. So we remain focus, and we just, if you want to meet with us, we'll meet with you and hear what you have to say. But when we come away from that, we're not leaning to any side to say, well, oh, they're doing this or they're doing that. No.
What's the next step? You went to court proceedings today. What's the next step?
The next step for BIPA is to be going back on the 24th. Once we are able to get that permission from the court to become joint, then we now become part of the process, so we have more access. We have access to more information from the judicial manager and his team. We get involved in meetings, and hopefully the directors of this new entity that the government has formed, by then they would have called us for a meeting, because one of the things, Carol, that concerns us is the management team that will be put in place. We are seriously waiting to see who will be the management team that will run this, because what we are seeing right now is another oversight committee. People come, they look at the documentation, they talk, they make decisions, and then 1 year, 2 years go by, and then it comes back to the liquidation process that the judicial manager is recommending right now. So we are eagerly watching and waiting to see what this new government entity is going to be doing, and we're going to be keeping them accountable for what they're going to be doing on behalf of the policyholders. Because I hear that when people say we are doing this in the best interest of the policyholders, or we're doing this on behalf of the policyholders, but then the actions that come after the words that are spoken, they do not line up with you saying that you're doing this in the best interest of the policyholders.
What are you interested in seeing? The persons, the names of the persons appointed to the board, or their competencies? What is more important to you?
The competencies, from what I've seen, I know of one person who has a strong insurance background. There are two, I think, in banking. I can't remember the others, but I would like to see another insurance representative on that board as well. Someone who's been in the business for a long time and has the knowledge and the expertise, not just one person. We would also like to really see a turnaround, because if you look at CLICO Trinidad, Carol, it still maintains the name CLICO, and it is still operational. They're making money. They're selling policies and doing all the things that an insurance company will do. Barbados is different. We're going to have a new company. Assets are going to be transferred, and this new entity is going to start doing business and so on. There's a lot of confidence that has to be rebuilt in the Barbadian public. Persons whose policies have lapsed, are they going to be willing to say, okay, I'm going to restart my policy? So there's a lot of work to be done by this new entity. So it will be keen to see who the management team is that is going to be put in place. We have some questions. Are persons with death claims, are those claims going to be honored? Are these people going to get cash? Because we believe they should be paid out. Persons whose policies have matured, whether you're EFPA or FPA, are they going to get their cash? And can they get it? If they can't get it in a lump sum, are they going to get it over a period of time? Persons whose policies have not yet matured and might have stop paying or allow the dividends or cash values to pay those premiums, can they now restart to pay their premiums with a level of confidence? So there are so many questions, and there's so much to be done, that BIPA is poised and ready to roll up our sleeves and say, hey, we are willing to work with you. This is the new management team or the new directors for this new entity, but you need to embrace us and let us in.
I thank you very, very much, and best of luck.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, Carol.
June Fowler, head of the Barbados Investors and Policyholders Alliance, BIPA. And that's it for this week. Thank you so much for joining me. And until next week, keep talking.